So, Nepal is right in the middle of this massive clean energy revolution, shifting millions of people over to electric cooking. And look, that's a huge win for public health. But there's a catch, a big one. What happens when today's amazing solution becomes tomorrow's toxic problem? Let's break it down. Okay, so here's the deal. To fight indoor air pollution and cut down on burning wood and biomass, Nepal is going all in on e-cooking. And we're talking about enormous projects, like one that's co-funded by the Green Climate Fund. Their goal? To get 500,000 electric cook stoves into kitchens all across the country. I mean, this is an incredible positive step forward. But, and you knew there was a but, right? All those shiny new devices will eventually get old. In 2023 alone, Nepal generated a staggering 42,000 tons of electronic waste, and that number, it's growing by 18% every single year. You can see where this is going. This clean cooking revolution is on a direct collision course with a major waste crisis.
And that brings us to the hidden crisis just bubbling under the surface of this clean cooking boom. Because this isn't just about a growing pile of old gadgets, it's about a ticking time bomb for Nepal's environment and for public health.
So where does all this e-waste actually go? Well, right now, more than 95% of it ends up in what's called the informal sector. And we're talking about people working in their own backyards, often with no protective gear at all, just breaking apart these complex electronics by hand.
And this is where it gets really serious. When these devices are just smashed apart or dumped in a landfill, all those toxic materials inside start to seep into the soil and contaminate the groundwater. This leads directly to some pretty severe health risks. We're talking nerve damage, respiratory illnesses, and even an increased risk of cancer.
So what kind of nasty stuff are we talking about here? Well, inside your average electronic device, you'll find a whole cocktail of hazardous materials. There's lead in the circuit boards, mercury, cadmium, even flame retardants in the plastics. These are absolutely not things you want anywhere near your drinking water.
And look, this isn't just a theory. As the source material points out, the leachates, that's basically the toxic soup that drains from landfills, are packed with heavy metals. Those little circuit boards, a key part of any induction stove, are a huge source of lead that can go straight into poisoning water sources.
It all sounds pretty grim, I know. But the good news is there is a clear, proven way to handle this. It's an environmental policy strategy that's already working all over the world. It's called Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR for short.
So what exactly is EPR? Well, to put it simply, it's a policy that flips the script. Instead of the consumer or the government being responsible for a product's end of life, that responsibility shifts back to the company that made it or sold it in the first place. The producer is now on the hook to make sure their old products are collected and recycled properly.
And this comparison just lays it all out perfectly. Without EPR, local governments and taxpayers end up paying for disposal, and companies have zero incentive to make products that last. But with EPR, the cost of recycling is built right into the product's price, and suddenly, producers are motivated to design things that are actually easier to repair, reuse, and recycle. It just makes sense.
And this isn't some new, untested idea. The whole concept was first introduced in Sweden way back in 1990. Today, it's a globally tested, proven strategy. There are over 400 different EPR programs up and running around the world for everything from old tires to electronics.
Okay, so we have this global strategy that works. The big question is, how can it be tailored for Nepal's really unique e-cooking challenge? Let's take a look at the proposed plan. See, an effective EPR system creates this whole ecosystem where everyone has a part to play. The big project owners, like Nepal's Alternative Energy Promotion Center, or AEPC, they have to plan for waste right from the beginning. Manufacturers and distributors, they have to take back the old devices. Consumers get an easy, convenient way to return them. And then formal recyclers, like the pioneering Nepali company Doko Recyclers, step in to handle the safe processing.
And the strategy for rolling this out is really smart. You don't try to do everything at once. The idea is to start with pilot projects in just a few municipalities, focusing specifically on this new wave of e-cooking devices. Once you prove the system works, you can use those lessons to scale it up across the country and eventually cover all kinds of e-waste.
Okay, but the million-dollar question is always, how do you pay for all this? Well, in Nepal, larger companies are required by law to spend some of their profits on corporate social responsibility, or CSR. And the framework has this absolutely brilliant idea. Let appliance producers direct those mandatory CSR funds into what are called eco-fees. And those fees directly finance the collection and recycling systems. It's a really clever solution.
Now for the really cool part. we've talked about the policy, but what does this actually look like on the ground? Let's kind of get our hands dirty and take a look inside an induction stove to see how the formal recycling process really works.
Right away, you can see this is a completely different world from those informal backyard operations. Here, you have trained technicians at Doko recyclers who are carefully dismantling each device. They're following a specific procedure to safely separate all the different components, recovering what's valuable, and making sure to isolate anything that's hazardous. So what's actually inside a typical 1.6 kilogram induction stove? Well, it's a mix of a lot of different materials. You've got the ceramic glass top, the plastic casing, an iron frame, and of course the most valuable parts for recycling, the printed circuit board or PCB, and those all-important copper coils.
And if you're a visual person like me, this chart makes it super clear. You can see the ceramic top and the plastic casing make up almost 2/3 of the stove's weight. But it's those smaller percentages, the circuit board, the iron, and especially the copper, that's where the real recycling value is hiding.
And here is exactly why this all matters so much. The environmental benefits are huge, and they're measurable. By properly recycling just one of these little stoves, we save over 2 kilograms of CO2, enough energy to power a light bulb for days, and over 130 liters of water. Now, just imagine, multiply that by hundreds of thousands of stoves. The impact is enormous. So all of this really points us toward one clear path forward. It's about making sure that Nepal's move to clean cooking is genuinely clean, from the very beginning to the very end.
And this is really the bottom line. Nepal is at a critical crossroads. By planning for a product's entire life cycle right now, from the moment it's made, it can turn this potential e-waste crisis into a blueprint for a sustainable, circular economy, where today's old appliances actually become tomorrow's resources.
You know, this whole situation in Nepal really brings up a fundamental question for all of us in our time. How do we build progress that actually lasts? The answer seems to lie in having foresight, in designing systems from the start that make sure the solutions we're celebrating today don't become the crises we're forced to clean up tomorrow.